boys and girls. Welcome to Children's Moments at St. Mark's Methodist Church with Miss Robin. You caught me in the middle of my morning workout. I'm trying to get stronger. I was told that if I worked out with heavy weights every other day, I would build up my strength. But let me tell you, this is hard work. Wouldn't it be great if we people could get stronger without having to work out? That reminds me of a story from the Bible. You can find it in Judges, the 13th through the 16th chapter. And it's about a man who was born strong. It was a gift from God. He never had to work out with heavy weights. And that man's name was Samson. I have that story to tell you today. This is Samson, and this is the story of God's strong man, Samson. Samson was born long ago in the land of Israel. There was a man named Manoah, and he and his wife had no children. One day, the angel of the Lord came to Manoah and his wife, and the angel said, "Even though you have been unable to have children, you will soon give birth to a son. His hair must never be cut, for he will be dedicated to God as a Nazirite from the moment of his birth until the day of his death." When her son was born, Manoah's wife named him Samson, and the Lord blessed him as he grew up. He became one of the strongest men in the world, and the fact that he was a Nazirite was very unusual, because Nazirites were men who served God, but they took a vow, and they did it by their own choice. And that vow was that they would never drink alcohol, they would never cut their hair, and they would never touch the dead body of an animal or a human. Samson had a very eventful life, and here was some of the events from his life. When Samson grew to be a man, he was attacked by a lion. Now you might think that was the end of Samson, but he was filled with the power of God, and he killed that lion with his bare hands. He later got married. His father-in-law gave his wife to another man. Well, you can imagine how very, very angry that made Samson. So he did something kind of unusual. He caught 300 foxes, and he tied their tails together, and he placed a flaming torch between them. He then released the foxes into the Philistines' grain fields and destroyed their crops. Now, the Philistines were a group of people that lived with the Israelites, and they were not people that got along together. So now the Philistines, who didn't like the Israelites already, are really mad at Samson. And they wanted to get revenge against Samson for destroying their crops. So they attacked his town, looking for him. An army of Israelite men then went and they searched for Samson so that they could give him to the Philistines and stop the Philistines from attacking their town. When they saw Samson, they captured him and they tied him up and they took him to the Philistines. When the Philistines saw him coming, they ran towards Samson, swinging their swords. But suddenly the power of God came over Samson, and he broke the ropes that he was tied with, just like they were pieces of thread. there was a jawbone of a donkey lying in the dirt nearby, and Samson picked it up and he took that jawbone and he killed 1,000 Philistines. Now, as strong as Samson was, he had a weakness, and his weakness is he loved women. And not all the women that he fell in love with were the women or the kind of women that God chose for him. And one day he met a beautiful woman named Delilah, and he fell in love with her. Now, I don't know if you remember from the beginning of the story that when the angel of God came to Samson's mother before he was born, he told her that he should never ever have his hair cut, because that was the strength of Samson's, or the secret of Samson's strength. Even though Samson was blessed with great strength, as I said, he had a weakness, and the weakness was beautiful women. He fell in love with Delilah, and 5 rulers of the Philistine nation, who are his enemies, remember, got together and they created a plan. They went to Delilah and they persuaded her to find out the secret of Samson's strength and tell them what it was. Each of them promised her 1,000 pieces of silver if she would do that. So Delilah went up to Samson and she said, "Samson, please tell me what makes you so strong." And Samson tricked her. He told her something that was not, in fact, the truth. And that happened 3 times. And Delilah pouted. And she said, "Samson, how can you tell me you love me when you won't share your secrets with me? You've made fun of me 3 times now, and you still haven't told me what makes you so strong." Finally, Samson weakened, and he told Delilah the true secret of his strength. Delilah then went and told the secret to the Philistine rulers, and they came and they cut Samson's hair while he was sleeping. They were then able to capture Samson because all of his power had left him. The Philistine kings grabbed him, and they did a terrible thing to him. They poked out his eyes, and they tied him up with chains, and they dragged him away, and they put him to work turning a great stone wheel day after day. But then his hair started to grow back. One day the Philistine leaders were having a great victory celebration, and they decided to bring Samson in so they could have some fun making fun of him. They made Samson stand in front of some huge columns of the temple where they were celebrating. No one noticed that Samson's hair had grown back. As they were laughing and making fun of Samson and his God, Samson was quietly praying, "Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just one more time and let me with one blow get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." And then Samson said, "Let me die with the Philistines." Then he pushed the 2 columns with all of his might, and down came the temple on the rulers and all of the people that were in it. God gave him strength to kill more enemies when he died than when he lived. Wasn't that story of Samson a wonderful one? Of a very, very strong man, given so much power by God, yet he still had weaknesses. And even though he had weaknesses, God still used him in powerful ways. Let's bow our heads and pray. Dear God, thank you for being a powerful God. Thank you for the gifts that you have given to us. Help us to always use those gifts for your good and for the good of your people. Amen. Goodbye, boys and girls. Have a wonderful week. And I'll see you next Sunday for the story of Esther.